Well, this is getting old. Qbot with a twist?
So Manny, tell us about Qbot. There's some new phishing techniques it has.
Yeah, so from a Qbot perspective, we've talked quite a bit about Qbot in the past. Qbot has been around since probably about 2008. There's no shortage of stories, and I think we've covered it on this show quite a few times. There's not a ton here, but it is a sort of a new little twist to it, and I hadn't heard about this, so I figured, it'd be worth talking about. So we know Qbot, and we know Qbot goes by a couple different names. As a matter of fact, a bunch of their names are just seems like different ways to spell like Quackbot. But it's been around for a while, and we know that Qbot is known for doing, stealing of banking credentials, a whole bunch of other kind of financial information that it steals from the victim's machines. It provides remote access. It delivers ransomware. I mean, pretty much you name it, Qbot pretty much does it. Qbot is also it's highly structured. It's multi-layered, and it's obviously since it's been around since 2008, it's continuously being updated. So it's one that's been around for a while, and unfortunately, I think it's safe to say it's probably going to be around for quite some time longer too. But in this particular instance, the thing that kind of interested me was that in this case, it's actually using a fake Windows Defender antivirus theme to basically trick you into enabling the Excel macros. So in this case, it's being delivered like it very frequently is through phishing campaigns, so delivered in an email with an Excel spreadsheet as an attachment. And as we've seen before, and we've talked before about the dangers of getting an Excel spreadsheet and the use of macros and enabling those macros. So I think we've talked a ton about the dangers there and trying to warn users about opening macro or opening Excel spreadsheets with macros and informing the user that they need to enable that. In this particular case, we're seeing that. So it is trying to get users to click the Enable Content button, which pops up at the top of the Excel window. And we are seeing this new variant sort of using what they call stylized document templates. So it's a way of sort of trying to trick the user by using templates that resemble other, sort of known programs. And in this case, Windows Defender, obviously being a very known Windows program, trying to pretend to be a Windows Defender sort of pop-up. And it's also claiming that this document is encrypted, and so it has to be decrypted in order to be read. So you've got a couple of things that are happening now from an end user perspective that sort of help to trick the end user. You've got the Excel spreadsheet. When you open it or when you click on it, it's popping something up that looks like it's coming from Windows Defender. And you also have a notice within the window, and you can see it there in the story, that the document itself is encrypted, and that the users need to, in order to decrypt a document, they actually have to enable the editing, right? So there's another button at the top of Excel that folks I'm sure have seen from time to time that basically say, that you have to enable editing. And the message there says that you have to do this, you have to enable the editing or enable the content in order to decrypt the actual file. And it says that it's using something called Microsoft Office Decryption Core, which sounds really official when you see it on the screen. I went and looked because when I saw that, I said, I don't think I know what that is. So I wanted to do a little research on it. Turns out it doesn't look like it's anything real. So, it's something that they clearly have come up with to try to trick users by calling it something that sounds very official, but in reality, it doesn't appear to be anything real. So again, all of these things combined, unfortunately, help the malware writers here to try to fool their victims into opening this thing up. And then unfortunately, once you've gone through this and you click the button to enable the editing or enable the content, you're unfortunately, you're infected at that point. And then, and then you're in a world of hurt because you basically now it's going to download the malware from wherever it's actually pulling it down from. So, again, that's kind of the interesting part about this. Not a ton different here, but again, the use of this whole Windows Defender and the stylized document templates was an interesting twist.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the previous discussions about Qbot in the past, so it's obviously, like you mentioned, just an evolution. It looks official. I could see, an end user. Like you mentioned, it's got the this kind of the theme of Windows Defender. At the bottom, it had McAfee and RSA, right? So It looks like it's legitimate. I think there was maybe cooperative firewall, something if you actually read it, there were a couple of things in there which maybe tipped you off outside of just best practices, like you've said in the past of, being extremely careful, if ever, right, enabling macros. Yeah, definitely. I anticipate we'll just keep seeing this, right, evolve more and more, with the end goal of just, getting that click or two, right? That people are going to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what it comes down to. Again, we've seen this before. Obviously, it's just the little tiny nuances, the little twists that they, twist in, to get, sort of a new face on it, because, things tend to get stale, right? Over time, people get to understand what the campaign looks like, what the techniques are, and it probably starts to become less and less effective over time. So you got to keep changing these things. And, Qbot has definitely, over the years, kept themselves sort of updated with looking at, what's out there, what's changed, and let me add that into one of the techniques that this thing is using so that I can start fooling more and more people. So, like you said, I think we're just going to keep seeing that.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'm sure we'll probably see this again in a future episode where they've, maybe get another modification. So interesting.
Yep. And we'll talk about it then too. Yep.